Bannerlord can be a brutally hard game. Often you're outnumbered and massive armies march against you. Well, in this new series, we're going to work together, friends. What I want you to do is send me your difficult situations that you're either currently encountering in Bannerlord in your campaign, or something that you've dealt with in the past where you were just unable to solve it. I will do my very best to handle these difficult situations. I will share the results on YouTube, provided they have some kind of educational value for people. We will take on these difficult challenges, do some battlefield analysis, and hopefully help you turn around a very, very difficult battle. So join me on this adventure. Please send me your difficult situations. Have a little patience. I don't know how many there are going to be, but I'm willing to take these challenges on for you fellas as we handle your disasters of war. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and let's load up save file, educational file number 2 here for another episode today of our Disasters of War series. In fact, we rejoin George the Bandit King Blacksmith here. Again, we'll put his email up briefly and we'll focus on the second scenario because he sent in 2 save games. I love this. He says, you're between an army of 300 coming to aid a siege and to keep under siege. The challenge for this one is to fight the army of 300 with fairly elite army of primarily sea raiders and forest bandits. He said he was able to win the field battle against 300, but then he didn't have enough troops for the castle and he abandoned it. So the challenge here is basically to pull off both of these, right? To fight this open field battle and then win the siege scenario here. So let's take a little look at some of the constituencies of this episode of George the Bandit King. You got to have a better helmet than that if you're going to be a Bandit King, buddy. We got to get you some better drip, but I still love the scenario. Thanks again for sending in your game file and sharing it with the community here. So I see Ragenvad, the Grand Prince, is coming in with his pathetic army of 300. No offense, you vanilla players. And I see the city is not quite under siege yet, right? Because the catapult is still flying there. So Ragenvad has a solid army. I would say it's unspectacular, but solid, with some good infantry and some cavalry. Kind of a traditional vanilla mix here with this pompous half Russian, half Armenistanian fella here. Now, let's see if we can adjust some equipment here. We're going to be fighting the first battle in the open, right? So let's see what we got here. Right away, I prefer this, right? A longer sword, even though it's a little slower, it does more damage and it's longer on a horse. Man, George, if you've never tried like a 130 length two-handed weapon, a big long axe, it's just a lot more consistently able to contact with the enemy. So we'll tinker with a few banners here as well. Just little tiny things you can do to improve your odds in an open field battle like this. Now, I'm already eyeballing a kill box, right? The fans of the channel who know tactics. What I think we'll do here is do a couple different showings of this open field battle and maybe even a couple of the keep siege as well. The keep siege on the surface represents the far easier battle. For most players, 117 against 400 in the Grand Prince. This is not a doable scenario. So let's start off how I would do it here. We'll fight this first battle as if this was a $10,000 challenge by Tail Worlds and an official tournament of Bannerlord players or something like that. And I'm going to win $10,000 here because we have forest bandits with 2 quivers of arrows, right? The enemy is going to get shot to pieces here, especially with some pre-kiting. We switched out some banners, and I want to mention that, right? We've got increased troop movement speed, which is amazing for a kill box. It's really good for all Bannerlord battles, but especially good for a kill box here. It's snow. The enemy's going to be trudging along, trying to get to our units, and they won't get to our units until we decide for them to be killed, right? We're basically going to kite these guys into oblivion. Now, I'll say a couple things here as we set up our divisions, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to run 2 infantry divisions, and of course, we're going to look for the proper grounds to pull off a kill box here. The scenario, you know, you want flat, more or less flat, but I think there's enough flat here at the bottom of the hill to make this work. We'll hold fire at the beginning But this is way more difficult in the micromanaging than most players are ready to deal with. So we'll do this the first battle just to kind of show you what I would do if I had to win this battle, especially if I had to minimize casualties. Say instead of this battle, afterwards we were looking at another battle against 200 or 300. What would you do here to make sure you won with, you know, at least 50% or less casualties? Now we've got a couple lords riding in here first. No one's ever accused them of being genius. She's not even shooting. She's just going to ride in here. There she goes. She's finally shooting at us. Well, we can take out the garbage. I do that. That's one of my jobs at home. I take the garbage out, right? The wife and I have split some chores around the house. It's good for you fellas, by the way. If you got a girlfriend moving in, make sure you establish some good chores etiquette, right? That way you're setting the pace right away at a happy relationship. That little 12-second philosophical moment aside here, we've got 23 javelins here, right? So we're going to soften up the enemy a little bit. We're going to prioritize flag bearers, cavalry, and high-end troops, right? George has custom javelins here, so you can see the damage they're doing. It's knocking these guys into next week. And as soon as I said that, it doesn't kill somebody, but that's okay. This is just very simple, right? Even relatively inexperienced players can get in here. Now, you're at risk here. In fact, I'm getting cut off. Shit. Oh, shit. I would not encourage you to absorb 2 direct kidney shots of javelins, but at least we didn't die. But did you die, bro? No, we didn't die. We just got injured. All right, now these guys, I didn't realize they're coming through the back door here. These guys are some sexually explicit sturgeon bandit raiders here. So we're going to form a square and a shield wall line to prevent them from really scorching these archers over here. And now we're going to start kiting around the corner here. I want to kite around that corner for 2 reasons. First, I can get archers up top of that hill, and they'll be shooting down into the enemy ranks. The other reason I want to do that is I'm sort of limiting how much the enemy archers can get to our troops, especially our archers. Right, our bandits, what are they, Sea Raider chiefs? They're pretty good against archers, but your forest bandits will get destroyed by archers, right? They're lightly armored, they don't have a shield, so they're going to get scorched. So the main enemy Zerg is coming towards our left, which is what I wanted. We're going to kite these guys right around the corner here, keep our infantry at range, but especially our archers, right? We're going to push our archers eventually up that hill once we can kite far enough here. The sturgeon mass actually separated. There's 2 different infantry divisions coming down, but I think that's temporary. In fact, they're already starting to rejoin. The 6th Division, they have our fastest speed banners, so we're going to be using them to try to get behind the enemy. They also have some shields. That's going to give them a little bit of protection from the archers shooting downhill. Got to pick off a few more of these cavalrymen here, but now the enemy is firmly in the middle of the kill box. The 4th Division is on the hill up there. We will very quickly move them behind the enemy. The infantry divisions are sort of here on the left, baiting the enemy a little bit. I've still got a few javelins left for these guys. Hit you in the face. And of course, George is just a beast character. We discovered that in the first battle, right? This guy wrecks shop. He's got like 280 two-handed skill or something like that, a big old custom sword, and we're wrecking shop here. I'd still recommend George, especially since you're a smith. Carve yourself a couple, like a piece of wood. Craft yourself a couple of like 140 swords, even though they're slower, and kind of see how you like to feel on horse. I think they could be like 145 or something, just a huge long sword. I think it'll be the jagged looking one too, the one that looks like that weapon from The Last of the Mohicans that the chief dad wears. It's freaking badass. All right, enough of that. Let's continue to just spread our troops around here. We'll try to keep the narration sprightly here because we're going to be here a little while. This is 300 infantry. They're holding up their shields, and we're basically just going to go back and forth. The 6th Division, I was just moving up with that charge. We're not going to be charging for at least a couple minutes here, right? This is wound the enemy time. I got a few cavalrymen left, but this battle, I hate to say it's over already, but the enemy's in the absolute worst spot they could be in, right? They're downhill of one of our archer divisions. These forest bandits are just pounding the enemy. Look at all these javelins. In fact, this is a little store here. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that the sturgeons were wild with their throwing weapons. We're going to go pick up 5 or 6 javelins here before they get to us and get back on our horse. There's a nice perk. Oops, shit. Pull back, infantry. I don't want this infantry charging. Get over here, you Sea Raider mofos. There is a perk where you can pick up javelins from a horse. I've never really used it, but I might have to try that because for a battle like this, it'd be elite. You'd be able to pick up javelins left and right and just ride around and reload. And then the rest of our job here is just to circle. Now, the enemy's already in bad shape. Not only have they lost about half of their troops, guys are starting to rout. The cowards start to rout early on. You can hear them yell, "Help!" That's their low-level units. Their veterans are holding out, right? So we still want to continue to soften them up here. I still see tier 5 infantry in here, but we're about to close the vice here. We can bring in the 1st and 3rd over here. Now the 6th division can be told to charge. Some guys might wait a little longer, but I don't want to, and I could wait a little longer here, but I don't want to bore you guys to death. You guys get the idea. This Sturgeon force has dwindled to about 1/3 of its original strength. Now we got archers shooting them, and we'll charge in with largely unhurt Sea Raiders. I can help out a little bit here, and they should melt pretty quick. Obviously, what you're hoping for here is a quick rout, and they are starting to break and rout. I mean, it would be an uncomfortable feeling to get shot to death for 4 minutes by a commander who obviously knows what he's doing, and then to get charged from 3 different directions by full health angry Sea Raiders. And appropriately, the enemy has routed here. Now, their archers, it looks like they've routed, but it doesn't say the battle's over yet, so we got to finish them off. But that's it, right? This battle is over. The enemy troops are fleeing into the snowy sunset here. Rack up a few more kills. Now, George doesn't want this save game back, so it doesn't matter too much. But this is going to leave us in good shape for that siege, right? I would say we have a solid 60 troops left, maybe 70. And these fucking archers here are hiding in a pretty good spot. They got a nice little ridge up here. We're going to ride these fuckers down. I can't get up there, so we will... Oh, you cheating bastards. Look at these fucking guys. These guys have found a location where you can't physically get to them. Reminds me of those players who play like first-person shooters, and they get to a spot that nobody can even touch them at, and they just kind of cheat and snipe and shit. I physically can't get to these guys here. So... it's kind of funny. The AI definitely didn't intend to exploit this shit, but it's what it is. It's a borderline exploit. It's like they're hiding up in a tree shooting us with their archers. But George, the Bandit King, is now on them. And just like that guy said, we're too strong. We're going to butcher some sisterhood followers and whatnot here and wrap up this first fight. I'm doing this just because I don't want to have... 40 troops killed here at the end because we just carelessly fight through this. The enemy should have routed already after we had crushed their infantry. They didn't. Then they exploited the terrain. Little cheaters. So we will remove a few heads here to teach them a good lesson. And classic textbook kill box right there. Guys actually start to use that lingo. I love it, right? This is a kill box. Military kill box is a little different, but the concept is still similar. This is just adapted for Bannerlord. Most military kill boxes are modern, and they have to do with force positioning where you rapidly surround an enemy force and then close in different units. It's similar but different. Same but different. Now, we're not worried about prisoners here. We'll do a few upgrades and on to the siege defense. And this is a perfect example of the snowball effect in Bannerlord. If you can fight battles and minimize casualties, and we've had a few other series that either have or maybe they haven't hit the area yet, so to speak. I haven't published them. They will focus on how if you can minimize casualties, you can face 4 or 5 battles in a row. 94 troops we still have here ready to go for this siege defense. Now, they're not sieging yet, right? So I'm just going to wait a minute here till you hear the little sound of them attacking, and then we will jump in here. They look like they got a couple catapults, maybe even a ballista. And... I don't think it's started quite yet. You can tell the number will start going down. You can hear the little sounds of siege and stuff like that. Now this time, I don't mind this time, right? We're healing up. We're getting even healthier. But I don't think this is going to be a challenge at all. We'll see. Now, in the Georgia situation, he was so beat up after that battle. He didn't say exactly, but it sounded like he was, or maybe he did and I didn't notice. It sounded like he had like 10 troops or something like that left. 10 or 20 troops, and so what he did is just he went somewhere else, right, and didn't participate in the siege. Nothing wrong with that, but of course if you pull off a kill box there, we're not just ready for the siege, we're locked and loaded here, right? Now I could switch out a few more weapons. You want a faster, shorter two-handed weapon typically for siege. Although, you know, I do like a longer weapon for siege as well. The advantage of a longer weapon is you can stay at safer range, right? So, let's see. That's a nice fast sword. I actually kind of want that sword for George. 102 speed? That's like the fastest sword I've ever seen. Heartfinder. Is that? Oh shit, it's a one-handed weapon. Wow, my mistake. Wasting your time here. Let's switch that back. So I'll talk about that real quick while I fix this. I like a hammer for siege. And guys, you know, they don't even use it, right? We talk about it on our smithing episode. The two-handed hammer is basically the fastest, longest two-handed weapon in the game. Right? The swords are fast, and they're pretty long, but the hammer and various different versions of it, they can be really long, right? They can be like 130 length and still in the 90s or upper 80s for speed. So you kind of get the advantage of both worlds, and you can hit multiple opponents at once. And we accidentally had a field battle there. Of course, we're trying to sneak in here, and it looks like we've got like 70 or 80 troops inside the siege. Yeah, this is going to be a blowout. I can already tell you. Now, I do see a lot of militia here, right? The AI does have a lot of militia, so they will be scorched on the walls en masse, but it looked like we had a catapult or two. Ah, damn it, my horse. Disobedient horse. I'm gonna kill your horse there, George. That's how we're gonna take over your save game. Immediately start executing your four-legged companions. And, okay, we got a catapult right here. That's where I want to get down to. In fact, this is where we're going to make our stand. This side of the city, or castle, if you've only got, you know, the 80 troops like we do here, you want to concentrate them. And we have a Zerg of Walmart shoppers here that are with us, right? These guys are all Zerging down here to get shot on the walls. We're not going to use the walls, of course. But as the enemy starts to come up here, we will form a defensive plan. Even though it's going to be sprightly, it's going to be challenging with 80 troops, 70, 80 troops. We've got a fire catapult. I mean, this is basically, the enemy has a 0% chance of success here, right? Fire catapults. We actually have a horde of troops. And when you have this many archers, they already destroyed the ram, so we've got 2 or 3 catapults that are working. I didn't even see where the other one was. We can get in, I mean, this is going to be gruesome. We're going to be able to get in 3 or 4 shots here with the fire catapult before the enemy even gets to the wall. The enemy's getting shelled on the other side by some of our troops. I just killed like 40 recruits. And the other thing I noticed, of course, with vanilla, very, very weak armies, right? I'm not used to fighting armies packed with recruits and woodsmen, but it's a very different battle for me as an experienced commander. This catapult, too, I mean, it's kind of grotesque. We have an embarrassment of riches in this siege. In fact, there's a good chance the enemy doesn't even get up to the walls. I mean, just immolating the troops en masse. Once you get your catapult game going in Bannerlord, any siege where you have 400 or 500 troops and the enemy has less than 1,000, you win, right? Because you're gonna melt 80 or 100 troops. Look at these militia just getting smoked. Thousands of javelins. You're gonna smoke 300 enemies before they get to the walls. In fact, they already routed. So very anticlimactic here. In fact, I didn't even get my fireball game on. We need some volunteer here. Here, this militia, you volunteered today, buddy. And talk about anticlimactic, right? I'm like blue-balled here. Maybe that's what that snow that's out there, that's blue, means, right? You're about to be blue-balled here by an easy siege. And disappointing, right? In fact, we are going to load this up in another way. I'm trying to think how we'll do this. Let's try to show you an easier way to fight that open field battle with those forest rangers, forest bandits, and we will try a siege where we purposefully make it harder. A little bit of editing here and we'll be right back. All right, let's try not to waste your time here. We'll get this reloaded again. Now let's do the simple form here. I'm just trying to reposition here so that we're roughly in the same spot of the map, and we will give this all a shot. Now this secondary time, we're going to try 2 different things here. Purpose of this is to, I was going to say replicate the previous battle. Well, it's not quite the same positioning, but it's still going to work because we're going to be able to try to do a funnel I think over there's a nice little angle to that slope where we can funnel the enemy, square some infantry, and hopefully still win this battle without doing all those dramatic tactics, all the micromanagement that some guys either don't want to do or just can't do. It's too much for their Bannerlord brain to handle. So in this episode, very, very simple, or at least I think it's simple. A strong first division of Sea Raiders, 2 different divisions of archers, and what we're going to try to do, of course, is square and kite just a little bit, right? We'll probably have to kite once or twice. Kind of depends on if the square survives or not. And we're going to use the strongest fourth corner of the square, fourth side of the square known to humankind. Granite, right? We're going to shove these guys against these rocks over here, have them shield wall, of course, facing the enemy, and then pound them with arrows. And I think that'll probably be pretty effective, although we'll see. Now, George said he did 3 squares and tried some different things. And I can't remember exactly how many troops he said he made it through this battle with, but a lot of players are going to lose this battle, right? You can see the power bar. The little red up there, it indicates, you know, we're severely outnumbered. We're badly outgunned here. So just a little bit of softening here. I'm also still sort of dialing in this mouse. This is a new mouse. We're playing with some different equipment from time to time as I play either at work or at home. And we'll see if we can eventually dial this in. All right, so we're going to let our Sea Raiders hammer them with throwing weapons as they come down the front here. And now the forest bandits, they earn their bread here, right? So we're going to square, and if the enemy doesn't attack our square, I will shove it into this little ski slope here, because we're not about to let the enemy pour down and attack our crossbow. So if they don't charge soon, I will simply, never mind, they're charging. So in they go, and that's good for us, right? Because 3/4 of them, their backs or their sides are facing our archers. I can join the fray here. You're going to have to get dirty in a battle like this, the bottom line. And George has got pretty good equipment, right? This guy's a darn good character, although, you know, as I get hit and cut and stuff like that, I got to remind myself, this is not Zuban, this is not Hugh the Hammer, this is not one of the gods of our campaigns. It's still pretty good effect, and I love all the shields rolling down the slope there. You can actually sort of keep score. How many red shields are there sliding? Is there more blue shields sliding down the slope here? It looks like more blue, but our infantry is starting to melt. Right? They're pressed against the wall here, fighting for their lives. George is fighting for his life. I guess with saves coming, we do have lives, multiple lives here. And it's close. It's very close, because our infantry square is almost gone. In fact, I hear people routing. That might be our guys. It might be theirs. I'm not sure. Maybe it's both. But a lot of their troops are down. We're on foot now, which is not good. I'm going to try to steal a horse here, and I think our Sea Raiders just melted. All right, so this is what I said before, a little tiny bit of kiting. I just want to take these 2 archer divisions and separate them. This is why you want to use 2 or 3 divisions. Fucking EUI is telling them to charge. No, clearly pointing off into the horizon. If that happens, tell your units to stop. See how it's telling them to charge? Either tell them to fall back, which is F1, F5, or simply stop, because you don't want your archers charging here. Quite the opposite. In fact, these guys, let's get them over the protection of this ridge here. The enemy has archers as well, so we're going to have to fight to the end here. And it still looks rough. I just glanced at the power bar. We're probably going to lose this, but we'll see. Right, we've got a horse archer gal here. George is going to play heroic here. Get in here and maul some people, knock off some heads. Dude's head went flying. And now we're just going to try to pound this Sturgeon shield wall. And, man, you just tip your cap to this part, right? Sturgeon does have the best defensive troops in the game. I mean, I am just attacking, and 99% of my blows here are finding one of those giant extra-large pizza shields. Extra large pepperoni pizza shield style looking things. The archers don't have shields though, right? So we can butcher them. They got a lord here I'd like to get a hold of. And we're starting to inflict some damage here. And of course, this is sort of a combination between the 2 tactics. Square to start. And I was hoping it would be a little easier than this, but our square died, right? And so you got to get down and dirty here. But they're starting to rout, and George just dropped. We got this gal here. At this stage, you want your archers just holding their ground. They might even charge, because if you can get that infantry to rout, this battle will be over. They have about 30 or 40 infantry, maybe less. Our infantry, or our archers, are charging. And I think the enemy just routed. Their lord got shot. and they started routing. And so, not super clean, but, you know, we survived, right? And that's always the key with Bannerlord. It's an absolute zero-sum game. You win, you get all kinds of rewards. You lose, you lose, you know, and it's fucking disaster. You're a slave, right? So, victory, right? So let's move on to the next siege, or at least this secondary attempt at the siege. And this is good, actually, right? We only have 56 surviving troops. It's important to remember, too, that you know, you lose troops sneaking into a castle here. So we're probably going to be down to 40 or 50 troops, which is not optimal. Although, we'll see. Maybe they won't start the siege right away. We'll certainly use whatever time they will give us to rest here. Now, of course, we'll use counter siege again the second time. I'm just hoping it's a closer siege, right? That last one, we had so many troops. You know what? They're starving the garrison here. 239. See how the garrison is injured there? I'm not sure what that is. People are declaring war on us. I don't give a shit about that. 227. The garrison is starving. So the garrison's down to 29. Combat hasn't started yet. These guys are starving. So that's good, actually, because this is going to be a challenge. It's basically going to be our force, 69 troops, and the militia. Now, I'm going to wait for daylight here, so we'll probably have low 70s troops. But this is definitely going to be a better example of this siege. There's still a chance the enemy routes, right, if we apply enough pressure early on. But it's very different when you have militia guarding the walls, right? These guys rout. These guys don't do much damage. And so it's largely going to be us in this siege defense here. And that's not totally fair. There's 20 or whatever, 14 in the garrison. But we're going to be the ones making the impact here. For sure, if George doesn't enter this siege here, the castle is lost. And he didn't mention that, but I presume that was the case in his scenario. All right, so 14 garrison, 150 troops here, and we're going to be down to 55 sturdy dudes here. Now, no, I don't need my email. I'm looking right at it. I'm hitting the escape button, and for some reason, my little Windows thing is popping up. I don't know what I got going on here. I'm trying to show you guys that we're on normal player damage. I hope you guys trust me at this stage that we're not like cheating just to impress a few guys on the channel here. I think the body of the volume of works here speak for itself as far as tactics, that and the testimonials. So anyways, I don't know why that didn't work, but we are on Bannerlord difficulty here. I'll run up here and try to beat the Walmart rush this time. Now, okay, we have a catapult over here, so we're going to jump on that. And this side over here is where we're going to make our stand, just like the previous siege. I think I mentioned that. We want to have troops kind of in a big ring up here, because if and when there's a final stand here, we're going to have to use all these angles. We're going to separate archers. We're going to use this upper rampart here. In fact, I want to bait the enemy up here, because that can be an efficient little funnel. We're going to have to jump on this catapult here, and then I'll just, here, let's just fire a shot or two, and then I'll assign some units into the courtyard. But this early stage, you want to maximize your firepower killing, firepower from the catapults, right? So I'm just going to shove these guys down here in lines. This is not necessarily final positioning. Just trying to keep those guys out of harm's way and get them in the courtyard for a last stand here. We'll see how this develops. Try to rack up some kills here. Now, I'm not going to be able to destroy that siege tower over there, so we're just going to have to deal with the fact that the enemy's going to have 3 entrances here. And it looks like we have just a single fire catapult here. Although, look at that shit. There's a fire catapult on the other side. So, that's very, very tempting. You see it over there? Those little pink balls on the ramparts. I want to get over there. We can use that particularly against the guys on the ram. So, even though I'm giving up this catapult, we got a good 30 or 40 kills there. George is, his athleticism is getting up there, but his character kind of moves slow. I'm not sure what's going on here, George. You might have some different perks that I'm used to. I like speed as a warrior, but, might have some different ones here. And, of course, he's armed to the teeth. By the way, your javelins do weigh you down something fierce. You will notice in battle, damn, that was a lot of fall damage. You will notice your javelins, once you throw them all, you're a lot lighter. Right? Once you get rid of all those, in fact, you really want to drop the javelin unit itself, because I think even if there's one javelin, it still counts as weight for like the whole bag. I don't think it gets lighter every throw. So this is beautiful, right? We're going to be able to kill a lot of the guys in the ram here, just raining down fireballs on them. And that other side over there, that's where the siege tower is. I'm going to probably get a throw or two on those guys as well. I mean, at this stage, we're still badly outnumbered, and we have militia everywhere, right? They're getting scorched on the walls. I see their carcasses starting to pile up here. The ram is starting to break apart. It looks like their weakest troops are on the ram, which is kind of an interesting strategy. You know what that means? That means there's elite troops over here. And you really want to kill the elite troops with the fireballs, right? To just like Napoleon's famous quote, to cannon, all men are equal. Well, to fireballs, all men are equal too, right? It kills varyags and heavy spearmen just as good as militia. So you want to take advantage of that, right? We got maybe one more throw here. Ah, you bastard. I'm going to fire it at least you knuckleheads. Let me show you how to use this shit, right? Big group of troops there. Catch one of these. Melted like 80 guys with that hit. Now the militia here is going to get blown up. They're diligently shooting their little bows. They bent that stick yesterday and attached a horsehair to it. They're doing 2 damage and 4 damage. This side is going to get blown up. But we've got some rocks here at the gate. We're going to use every single tool we can in this siege because it still may not be a castle siege we can win, right? When we let the garrison starve, or more accurately, once the garrison started to starve, we were in real trouble here. That first siege, the AI attacked immediately, and there's a random element to that, right? If you fight a siege, you'll notice if you reload it sometimes, the siege starts later or sooner. The AI has a little bit of a random trigger to when they officially begin assaulting the citadel. Now, I've got enough militia over there with the archer support that I'm not going to babysit our guys just yet. I want to use these rocks here and score another dozen kills. I don't know any other way to kill 10 or 15 sturgeon heavy axemen this efficiently, right? I'm out of harm's range here. As they come up this little spiral staircase here, I can pound these guys. You know, and if you kill 4 or 5 guys, like that's a huge net effect later in battle, right? Those guys all of a sudden up in your face right now. You're either running or dying, right? It's very important to take advantage of these stones. One more stone here for the road. Didn't kill anybody, but we did a little extra damage. And now, with George's sort of slow character here, we're going to make our way over to our troops here and make a last stand. And it does look like a last stand. You guys can see the power bar. We're not going to mute it for this series. I have no health, or almost no health. George almost has no health. So we're going to have to let our men fight, and we're going to have to use our brains here. Those are militia. I think they're routing. It's not a good sign. So let's start spreading archers out here. I was mentioning this at the beginning. The reason I didn't position them is because I didn't want to waste the time, right? That time was critical. You can see we ran out of time there. Otherwise, I would have kept throwing those rocks. I'm going to put our 3 infantry divisions with 5 guys. Uh-oh. I hear screaming and yelling, guys routing. Our 5 or 6 infantrymen there. We're going to get some guys. This roof, I think, can be used. Let's get some archers on there. A couple different divisions, because that's going to be the most secure sort of last stand. And what I'm going to do here is loop counterclockwise around the rampart up here and basically fight the enemy while we backpedal. The idea being, shit. They're fucking pouring up in large numbers, and of course the death spam is all red because the militia is getting butchered. They just have no chance against varyags and sturgeon heavy spearmen. Archer division here for some crossfire, and we just want to backpedal here, right? These troops here, it's 4 or 5 sea raiders and a companion. You want them kind of intercepting the enemy at the door here, and then as soon as you start to fight, backpedaling, right? So I'll tell them to follow me, and basically we're going to pull away from the door so that our archers down there can shoot these guys as we fight, right? We've got this supplementary support. And now you just, you hope we have enough firepower here. Some of the guys are probably going to go down the stairs and attack our archers here. I got to be careful. Throw some of these javelins. And this infantry, of course, is not going to last for long, right? We've got 4 or 5 sea raiders here. These guys, I'd love to... No. Push them back. They're going the wrong fucking way. And now you just circle here, right? And hope that there's just enough archers for us to last here. When we're in a fight to the death. The enemy's pouring in. They got lords and shit like that. But we've got 3 different archer divisions down there spraying the enemy at different angles. And as they come down the stairs and attack one division, the other division will shoot them, right? So you got that crossfire, counterfire, whatever the word is, whatever word you like. We're going to have to make our last stand here. There's like a couple militia holding out with us. Fight, men! Fight to the last! Don't you know what sturgeons do to their defeated opponent? They boil you alive! No routing! Fight! And they are roaring this way. There's like 20 heavy infantry. They're down there in the courtyard, but we're going to make our stand up here. I've got one last division of force bandits here to charge. Fight! Trying to charge here, fuck. We're gaining levels. Kill that guy. There's like 2 guys left. We got him. All right, let's go ahead and spread out archers up here. Let's get another division down here on the ground floor. The next wave might be just as tough. And the next wave ran. Ecstasy. The enemy is fleeing. Always a great feeling when you win a close battle like that. And again, George and his company here was profoundly impactful in this battle. In fact, there's only one last thing to do here. Maturely find their war leader and then repeatedly put your testicle on his face, right? We'll do the proverbial sexual desecration that you young kids should not be doing. That's a bad example, by the way. In fact, there's some fleeing sturgeons here. Let's commit some war crimes and kill deserting and fleeing troops. Have one right in the back of the neck, you. And celebrate. All right, we'll take that, a 21 to 1 kill ratio. 400 of the 500 kills were our party. And George rides off into the sunset here. The Bandit King, he's going to go do some smithing. Probably get several mistresses after his reputation grows in that battle. And of course, he said he didn't need the save game back. So this is all... Actually, the only good reason to do this is to show you all the influence we get from that battle. All these prisoners, immense loot. And of course, to wrap this episode up. All right, so this Disasters of War series is going to continue as long as you guys keep enjoying it and as long as guys keep sending in their difficult situations. I'm taking about 90% of these so far. I am turning down overly easy submissions, but most of them are pretty interesting and educational for the community here. I appreciate you fellas. You want to subscribe at this stage, please hit that like button on the way out, as I always ask. And with all that said, George and I will see you friends next time.